Hello and thank you for tuning in for my review of One Piece chapter 1041, 42, and 43. I didn't get to upload and do any videos, so I'm kinda lagging behind. So it's more like a recap of the last chapters. And instead of my usual prediction for next week's chapter, I'm gonna give out a few theories regarding a few characters. So let's get into it. So chapter 1041 continues Momo's and Yamato's conversation, giving possible clearance on Zonisha's role to help the Alliance. First important scene is a seemingly conclusion to Orochi, a seeming conclusion, and Hiyori, alias Komurasaki, revealing herself to Orochi as the daughter of Oden. The next scene is CP0 being one man down after Izo, one of Oden's retainers, who was with Whitebeard, took down one of the CP0 guys, with the other about to face Drake. And the final important scene being Luffy and Kaido's fight being continued, with Kaido having a brief flashback revealing quite a bit, or rather hinting at Big Mom himself and their relationship. And it seems they were all a bit more tame and friendly. Big Mom more skinny, more slim. But it shows her motherly side, her taking on a caring role, or maybe more of a big sister to Kaido, suggesting him to not trust or put his money, so to say, on Sebek, who they were both a member of the crew with. And we get that really short moment without context, so it would be nice to know how old Kaido has been in that scene. And I think it's super interesting, and I would like to see more on their relationship elaborated. The chapter ends with Luffy unleashing his Snake Man. Chapter 1042 picks up Drake and CP0 guy's encounter, with Drake stabbing the CP0 guy, only to be finger pistol shot into the throat from the CP0 guy, releasing himself from the stab. Only after Drake proclaimed this to be his justice. And it's very interesting to see that even though they are technically on the same side, Drake being a Marine and CP0 being part of the world government, there seem to be different understandings of justice and what it means. This might hint at Drake possibly becoming friendly with the Straw Hat crew, or possibly even becoming a member of the Straw Hat crew. A short reminder we get of the Fire Festival, and the scene continues with Luffy and Kaido's battle. After Luffy seemed to have the upper hand with Snake Man, Kaido copies Luffy's fighting style in his dragon mode, rather ridiculous, grabs Luffy with a point-blank Boro Brass, blasting Luffy through the middle of Onigashima, to the surprise of other characters. And Luffy gets up, switching from his gear for Snake Man into his gear for Bounce Man, implying that Snake Man is not the overall better, the improved form of Snake Man of of Gear 4. So it's not like Bounce Man is Luffy's level 1 Gear 4 and his fat chubby one, the huge Gear 4 form he used against Cracker, is his upgraded or level 2 form, and Snake Man is the superior all-round better form of Gear 4. That seems not to be the case. It seems like Gear 4 Bounce Man packs a bigger punch and gives him the ability to levitate, to float in the air. So there might be ups and downs, pros and cons to both forms. And Luffy counters back only for Kaido to strike back. So a bit of a back and forth between the two. Collecting his last strength, Luffy, about to clash, is surprisingly grabbed by the CP0 guy, only to be struck down by Kaido, having flashbacks about his win over Oden, putting them in parallels, both the defeat of Oden and the defeat of Luffy, in how he only won through distraction or trickery, so to say. Important here, I don't believe Kaido would have ultimately lost, not necessarily in a fair fight, till the end. And Kaido seems to hold some honor, at least when it comes to himself. Maybe not his crew, and he seemed to enjoy the fight. Chapter 1043 confirms that this was a devastating blow that seemingly took out Luffy for good. Very interesting here is the silent and short interaction of Kaido and the CP0 guy that follows, with CP0 guy just holding his head down, knowing what's coming for him. Kaido's strike. After that, Kaido breaks through the roof, declaring himself winner again, but this time in person. But Nami, and I really loved this, showed her disbelief vocally to Kaido, something that shows her character development and the face of Luffy's crew for him. Also, Kaido demanding Momo to give up. Very interesting. Even more interesting though, Kaido's following speech, almost in response to Luffy's words the previous chapter, how his dream stepped on others, on the people of Wano. I read a comment on YouTube of someone calling it compensating. Very, very interesting. And it gives a look into Kaido's personality, his character. Also of note, albeit short, Momo and Yamato's reaction. Momo about to waver, considering the lives of everyone else, the pacifist route, and Yamato standing firm, considering the consequence of giving up now after everything, the rebel route, so to say, finishing off with then let's face death together. And I know it's hard for many people to think of Yamato as a likable character. It's a character that hasn't been built up that much prior to the raid. It's a character that is seemingly so important, so pivotal, and at least pivotal to the current arc. Also due to her relationship with Ace, but it felt rushed, and it still feels rushed. So I can understand that for many people it's hard to relate to Yamato as an important character, and it will show whether or not Yamato will stay a character that is only central to the Wano Kuni arc, being a character that stays in Wano Kuni with minor significance for the future, or if she will stay relevant for the future, possibly joining the Straw Hats. The chapter ends with Zunisha's declaration of the return of Joy Boy. Luffy seemingly melting or liquefying with a huge grin on his face, indicating him to be Joy Boy. And in some of the translations, the fan translations you find online, it's remarked, sometimes with a little star on the page, that grinning in Japanese also is called Nico, like Nico Nico. People say in Japan sometimes, especially to little kids, when they're taking pictures or group pictures with classes, they're telling them, Nico Nico, like smile smile, like make a big smile. And that might sound similar to some people to Nika, a character that has been alluded. So for some people, Nika and Nico might sound close, so it was assumed that Sun God Nika might be one and the same as Joy Boy. Might be possible, but I don't think it has nothing to do with him smiling. And Japanese usually are quite strict with pronunciation, as there are not that many single individual phonetic sounds as in English. There are many like combination sounds, hiragana, but not as many individual phonetic sounds as in the English language. So Japanese don't have a huge sense for rhyming and words that sound alike. If a word ends on a different syllable, then it's usually not misunderstood or not considered interchangeable. So I don't think that his grinning, his smiling, his Nico, his smile, is a reference to Nika, the sun god. I highly doubt that at this point. So as I'm a bit late with my review and the next chapter will probably release soon, there's no prediction for the next chapter in this video. But let's talk about Luffy, or rather his devil fruit, and about Kaido, his character and his personality. And also about Orochi. Surprised? So, first about Luffy and his devil fruit. There might be some possible interpretations about what's going on with Luffy. They range from Joy Boy being reincarnated into Luffy, to fan theories theorizing that devil fruits might have a will attached to it, possibly carrying over the will of previous devil fruit holders to the next, which might be in line with what Whitebeard said, that Ace Fire, his will be carried on. But I thought that's more metaphorically and not literally, so I'm not a huge fan of that. Destiny seems to play a role in One Piece, but I don't think it's destiny in a cliche way. I hope it's not that. And even through Luffy had been alluded to be a special person from some time ago, sometime into the story. At least since we know that he's the son of a dragon, the revolutionary leader, and the grandson of Garp. Since we know of his connection with Ace. So Luffy has been built up as a destined character for quite some time. But like I said, I don't hope it's the cliche destiny way, in the sense of it had to be this way. That higher powers guided Luffy to his role. Rather, I think it has something to do with his devil fruit, with an inherent ability that he's granted through his devil fruit. And there has been a theory by a Japanese YouTuber, and he theorized that Luffy's devil fruit, the Gomu Gomu no Mi, the Gum Gum fruit, might not be rubber. It might not be even the Gomu Gomu no Mi. It might be a totally different fruit. And I watched the video. I watched the theory like I think months ago, and it was interesting. I mean, it was a really enjoyable video. It was an interesting theory, but I thought it's a far-fetched. I thought he was like really looking up some hints here and there throughout the chapters, and he's doing a lot of translation and word riddle. Like supposedly Oda, the mangaka, likes to hide information or does wordplay with numbers, and certain numbers in Japanese can be read differently and then read out give a meaning that might hint at things or might give a twist on the chapter, or just be a reference to something in the chapter. And I thought it's far-fetched to go through so many chapters and create this wordplay around the numbers, the chapter numbers. So I wasn't a huge follower of that theory. But after the last chapter, I think he might have hit the nail. I think he might have hit the nail with Luffy's fruit not being the Gum Gum fruit, not a rubber fruit. And his theory was that the true nature of Luffy's fruit is oil. Sounds strange, but oil more in a sense of fat. And oil can take properties like liquid oil, being having a even through a higher viscosity as water, being rather liquid, being a fluid, but can also be solid. Think of butter or margarine. So even through these oils consist of fatty acids. They are made in a way that makes them hard or solid at most room temperatures or up to room temperature, and they only liquefy at higher temperatures. So that might give an explanation to many of Luffy's abilities, and that might also be in line with his naming of abilities. Gear 1, Gear 2, Gear 3, Gear 4. Oil being a component in a machinery to reduce wear on the gears. Also, the way his pumping works, the pumping mechanism in Gear 2, the way he blows up his arms in Gear 3, and most indicative, his ability to ignite his punches, making them kind of like burning, which is strange for rubber. It seemed to me the explanation was him hardening his arms through armament haki, and then twisting the arm, being able to twist it due to his rubber nature, and that then the friction of his arm twisting when he goes for the punch would create enough friction for the burning attack. Maybe that was even Oda's original inspiration, or his original in his mind, his explanation for how the attack works. But oil seems to explain it also pretty well, as oil is burnable. And that might actually be more in line, more connected with him being a brother, even though not a biological. A brother to Ace and Sabo, with their ability, with their devil fruit being fire. Another theory that is not necessarily making his fruit not to be a rubber fruit, a gum fruit, but playing with the idea that rubber originally comes from a tree. It's actually a natural product, and that then gets processed into becoming hard rubber, the rubber we use in our everyday lives. But I think both theories have in common that there might be an innate ability in his devil fruit to liquefy, something that Luffy just hasn't tapped in yet, or till last chapter. And that might give a lot of variety to his abilities. I hope it doesn't make him too similar in his abilities to previously shown skills, like the wax abilities of, I think it was Mr. 3, Crocodile's Baroque works, or to Katakuri and his Mochi abilities. So I think it keeps a bit of its distinct uniqueness. So as for Kaido, and his character has personality, I think he's a lot deeper, and I think Oda might play with the with Kaido being depressive, being actually a broken person himself. All his talk about breaking the will of others, trying to break strong fighters to get them to join his crew, seems to me to hint at him being a broken character himself. And through the flashback of King, who was defeated by Zoro, we got to see that Kaido was probably a way more ambitious person, having probably ideals that were much higher, even though he may not have believed himself to be Joy Boy. He might have hoped for more and not settled as an emperor and enslaving Wano Kuni, the country of Wano. And maybe he's even well aware of his own cruelty, his own actions. And it will be interesting to see if we will get another twist in him, in his personality. And with twist, I don't mean a twist in how he was in the past, how he was when he was younger, which is of course something I would also like to see, to build him, because he's, I think, a super interesting character. and it would be interesting to see. It would be interesting to see how and why he ended up the way he is. But I would like to see a twist in his character in the current time, not flashback, but post confrontation with Luffy, as I hope he will be a pivotal character to the story of One Piece. He seems to know a lot, and he seems to know more than he made clear. And lastly, I want to talk about Orochi. So, the way Orochi went down was, I think, way too easy. I think there's still more plot to get out of him. He's a nasty character, and probably way more nasty than Kaido. While Kaido seems to have some sense of honor and dignity, Orochi is just a cowardly scumbag who uses tricks and deception to get what he wants. Orochi was only strong because he allied with Kaido, and he was never portrayed as that strong character. It was always, I think, from the beginning questionable if killing him, taking his head, would end the terror regime, the terror on Wano Kuni, if that would free up the country of Wano. And the way he was buried there under the rubble, looking helpless, I doubt that this is the end for him. And I think this has something to do with Japanese mythology. And for this, you need to know the story of the god Susanoo, who is one of the 3 children of the founding deities of Japan. So the 2 founder gods in Japan, Izanagi and Izanami, male and female, had 3 children, and their children are the female goddess, the sun goddess, Amaterasu, the moon god, Tsukuyomi, and I think he's sometimes represented as a storm god or warrior god, Susanoo. And very interesting for maybe some of you who watch Naruto, these are also the names of the three powers of the Uchiha, of the Mangekyo Sharingan used by Sasuke and Itachi. His Amaterasu being the black burning flame, his Tsukuyomi or Tsukiyomi being a Genjutsu, a dreamlike ability which traps others, and his Susanoo being a giant ghostly armor warrior that surrounded Sasuke. But back to the story of Susanoo. Susanoo would slay the giant serpent, the 8-headed serpent, Orochi. And in the midst of his slain body, Susanoo would find a legendary sword, a treasure, which supposedly still is carried on in the family of the Japanese emperors. So whenever in Japan there's a new emperor steps up and the old one steps down or dies, the new emperor inherits 3 treasures. I think they were a sword, a mirror, and a magatama, which is looks like a comma, like a jewel. And most important here is the sword, which supposedly really exists. Of course, I don't believe it's a godly sword. It's just according to mythology and to the myths surrounding Susanoo, it's a legendary mystical sword, but it's supposed to really exist. Doesn't mean it's a mythical sword. It's just supposedly a real existing one. But either way, according to legend, this sword is found in the middle, in the slain body of Orochi. And the way Orochi looks and the way Onigashima looks, this reminds me of a portrayal of Orochi, of the eight-headed serpent, in a video game. And I think it was a video game from possibly 2002. The game's name is Okami. And in the game Okami, you play the role of a wolf, a white wolf, which is a god. So in Japanese, the word for wolf is okami, and the word for god is kami. And there's sometimes the honorific, the polite O at the beginning, saying okami. So okami and okami, so one meaning wolf and one meaning god or gods, is a play on the fact that in that game you play as a white wolf who is a god. And the first major antagonist in the game is Orochi, a giant eight-headed serpent. And in that game also you find a weapon which you can use in the further course of the game, which is a pretty good weapon. And that depiction of Orochi, maybe it is what stuck with me and why I felt kind of familiar with that story. And the moment I saw Orochi in One Piece having that eight-headed serpent devil fruit, and also his name being Orochi, I had the feeling that Oda, the mangaka, is gonna play heavily towards there being more importance to him, and there being probably importance around a sword. And I predict that is either due to one of the characters we already know, possibly Zoro, possibly Momonosuke, using a sword which we already know, which is already in existence, to slay Orochi, in consequence giving significance to that sword, or finding a completely new legendary sword in the middle of his body. So that brings necessity to make Orochi a foe, a more important, a stronger adversary, which he has not yet been. So I see Orochi being the true and final obstacle in the fight of the Alliance versus Kaido's and Orochi's army, in their fight to free and liberate Wano Kuni. And I think we haven't seen everything out of the devil fruit, especially considering it was hinted in Orochi's flashback that devil fruit of his is a very special one. And I want to know, and I think we will know, we will get to see why that is the case, why his devil fruit is a special one, and why it was given to Orochi. So stay tuned, stay with me. I hope you enjoyed my video. A bit longer, but thank you very much, and see you again. Today I had to shot the video from the inside of my car. It's a work day actually. I could take some time off, but it's just really difficult recently for me to get some videos out, as my schedule got a bit tighter. So I still enjoy doing these videos, so I hope to get out and squeeze out some more videos the next days. Thank you very much. Thank you for tuning in. See you. Goodbye.